Hey everybody, this is Veronica from DesignaholicsStudio.com, and I cannot believe that we're already into Christmas in August. I feel like Christmas is just around the corner because I was working on this lovely collage decoupage piece, and that's what I'm going to be doing on the film today. But I just wanted to do one ahead of time to show it to you completely finished with everything dry. And I wanted to be able to show you, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see the glitter that's on here. And I can't tell if you can see glitter on here, but there's glitter all around the outside border, and there's some glitter on the snow, and there's some snowflakes. Where are they? There's one, and there's one, and they're done with glitter paste. There's another one. I just wanted to give you a chance to take a look at this before I get started. I'm very happy with this. I really like it. I'm going to redo it. This is on a piece of canvas board, which I used because I was kind of practicing. There was a lot of work involved in this one. And this is what I'm going to do it on today. I'm going to do it on an 8x10 canvas that has the staples on the back, and I'm going to put this into a drop-in frame when I'm all finished. And I'm going to start by showing you the placement. I'm going to tell you that I've already peeled off the 2 layers of backing that was on this napkin, because it's a very pernickety process. Sometimes they come off easily and sometimes they give you a little more trouble, and I didn't want you guys to have to sit here watching me do that. I did leave it on the back of one piece, and I'll show you how to do that when I get ready for that piece. This is just creating the background of this project, and I've used this napkin right here, this one, to do this piece that's going to go onto the background. And this has got beautiful silver snowflakes. The whole entire napkin is covered with beautiful silver snowflakes. And I believe this is a 3-ply, so you have to separate 3 layers. Okay, I'm ready to get started with that piece. And I'm using, as usual, my Stamperia. Oh, too far back. And not flat. There we go. Stamperia Mixed Media Art Mixed Media Glue, which I really like. And as I've said before, you can use Mod Podge. I used to use Mod Podge all the time. Now I prefer this one, but that's up to you. You don't have to use this if you don't want to, but I really like it. Anyway, we're going to start just by putting some of this on the background, onto the canvas, into the corner. And it's almost like place it with some more glue where you've put the glue underneath it, and set it down so that it stays stuck. Lift it a little bit, put some more glue under it. I'm finding that this particular canvas has a little bit of a rolled edge, so I'm going to have to be careful to make sure I put it over the edge. Lift it a little bit and pull it a titch when you're putting the glue on the top. That'll help to prevent all kinds of creases and bubbles. And I am doing what I always do, being a little too aggressive and ripping the napkin. So I'm going to try and be a little bit more gentle. I guess maybe that's because I'm trying to work quickly. I don't want this video to be too long for you guys. So I'm trying to work quickly, and maybe that's not the greatest idea, and I've said that before. So I'm going to slow down a little bit. I can fix that later. I'll put something else there. Maybe a glittery snowflake or something. Okay, we're just going right along here, and I'm putting this down, and I'm going to be a little more gentle so I don't rip it again. And I could use the water technique, which I've shown you before, and I did show you that technique on a video if you want to refer back to it, but because I'm laying down so many pieces of napkin, I decided not to do it that way this time. And I've also said before, if you get a few creases, well, if I get a few creases, I don't know about you, but if I get a few creases, I'm fine with that. If I really want it perfectly flat, I would use the water technique. Okay, I'm almost done this. Now I've ripped and taken off most of the backgrounds already, so you didn't, as I said, you didn't have to watch me doing that. It takes a little while to do it. Sometimes the back comes off very easily and sometimes it doesn't. So it takes a little while to get it off, and I didn't want to stall the video to watch that. Okay, let me just put this down a little bit here. You know what? I wouldn't necessarily even have to take this off. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'll just leave it there for now. Alright, that piece is on. I see a few little creases, but that'll be fine. Maybe another little bit up here. Nope, it's stuck pretty well there. Okay. Now, the next piece I put on is this piece up in the corner. And this napkin, so I've used a few napkins for this piece of work. That's what this one is. This is one of those dinner type napkins, and it comes with 6 sections, and that's the one that I've used to do the upper corner and the bottom corner of the canvas. I ripped it already, planned it out a little bit and ripped it, but what I'm going to do is show you, just in case you haven't seen this before, I'm going to show you that there is this tissue backing. Some of the napkins have 2 of these. Some only have 1. This one looks like it only has 1, so I'm going to rip it off very gently. If you don't take it off, you take the chance of the napkin separating at some point, and that'll ruin your work. So just rip it down. Be gentle, don't go too fast. And there we go. Now, I cut this piece, or ripped this piece rather, to fit here. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to put some glue up here. I'm going to, whoops, I might have to go over a little bit further because this gray one goes further over. And then I am placing this down on top of the one it's overlapping over here. Notice it changed the color a little bit when I glued it. It got a little bit darker, but that's quite nice. I like it. Alright, now I'm just going to lift and put some more glue underneath. Yeah, this is a bit of a tedious process, but it's fun too. I like doing this. I'm a bit of a slowpoke, so rushing things is kind of contrary to the way I normally work, and the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree because my dad was a slowpoke as well. Everything he did was perfect, but he was very slow. Not everything I do is perfect, and I'm still slow. Okay, now let's take this down a bit further down here. Now this may have to dry a little bit, so I may have to pause the video and then come back to it, but you won't even be able to tell that I paused it. Because next we're going to use, after we've got everything down here, we're going to use some gesso, white gesso, to get rid of the edges, but the glue has to be dry before we can do that. There's quite a bit of glue on this. Okay, there we go. There's that piece. I'm using the exact same napkin for the lower right hand corner. I'm going to go like this. Here, I'm going up higher. I may have gone up a little too far with this. Anyway, there's where it's going to go. And because that's wet already, I am nicely pulling up the napkin that's underneath it. Well, there, I did cover that rip though. You see what I mean? Everything gets fixed eventually, one way or another. Yep, and there's already glue on there from the other napkin and it's not dry. So that works kind of well. I don't have to re-glue that. And it's a little drier down here, so I'm going to put a little more glue on. And Christmas in August, I cannot believe it. Well, maybe I can believe it because I just started my Christmas shopping. I have lots of gifts to buy, so if I don't start in August, I'd still be doing my Christmas shopping in February. And I've decided to cut back a little bit this year because I spend far too much money at Christmas. Everybody's been warned. They don't believe me though. They say that every single year I threaten to cut back and I never do. But this year I really am going to. Because I've got lots of grandchildren, 12 of them. And I've got children and I've got girlfriends. And I've got lots of people to buy for. Okay, I'm almost done this. As soon as this background is done, I'm going to just leave it and let it dry for a bit, and then I'll get back. Now remember, you do have to take off the edges, and you use sandpaper to do that. I will do that probably once it's dry and before I come back. You just use your sandpaper from top to bottom and take off the edge. Alright, now the last napkin that I used was this one, and this is a different one from what I was using before. That's this one. See, the two are very different. One's got very light and large snowflakes and one's got smaller and darker ones, and these are I'm also going to use individually later once this, well, no, you know what, I'll use them after I've put on the after I put on the focal point. Okay, so that's what I'm using for this now. And I've already, like I said, I cut this off. I've torn this. Sorry, I keep saying cutting. I don't cut. I've torn this and I'm going to put it there. So I'm going to start by, let's see, putting this just about there. I'm going to go over the top of the gray, and I've said many times before you should probably always have white underneath your napkins, but this kind of has a cool effect. You can see the other napkin through it, and I like the way that looks. So you experiment, you try things different ways. I'm going to do some, of course, where the napkin has got white underneath it. And then I'll do some where I've gone directly onto the paper that's underneath it. And you'll be able to see the difference. I'll actually even point it out to you. This is probably a good thing to be doing because then you can see the difference rather than me just telling you about it. And I'm almost done this. There we go, it's done. The glue's down, and in 2 seconds this will be finished, and I shall leave it to dry. It shouldn't take too long. That's what I really like about this glue. It dries very quickly, and it doesn't leave any kind of a tackiness when it's dry. It dries so that you're not sticking to it with your hands. That's what I like about it. Having used Mod Podge lots of times, I did discover that it does stay a little bit tacky afterwards. And that's not great. But it works. So if you want to use Mod Podge, we have that on the site. We have this one on the site. You can use whichever one you prefer. You may already have Mod Podge in your house. Alright, there we go. I am done with this part. There's a large open section here that I didn't put anything in, but that's where the focal point goes. So by leaving it white there, I am saving myself the time and trouble of having to go and put gesso in there. I will use gesso on some areas, and I will show you how to do that and what I'm going to do as soon as this is dry, and I'll be right back. Well, I'm back, and it looks like everything is dry enough to proceed. It's not 100% dry, but I can go ahead. And I've left a tiny little bit of excess on the corner. So just in case you didn't know what I was talking about when I was mentioning taking off the excess, use a little piece of sandpaper. You go from top to bottom and you just sand off that little piece, those pieces that are hanging over the edge. Takes 1 minute, it works very efficiently, it's gone, and there you go. Okay, I hope I did that on screen. Sometimes it gets off screen and I don't even know it. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is get no, you know what, let me think. This is the focal point, and I got this from this napkin. These napkins, all of them, are available on our site so that you don't have to go searching for them here, there, and everywhere. And this has 4 sides, so you get 4 images. And I do believe this is a 3-ply. Maybe not, it might be 2. It looks like it might be 2. But you'll be able to tell, because when you have taken off the back plies, it looks very, very thin. Very thin, wafer thin, and you can really see the pattern through it. So that's how you know you've taken off as many as you can take off. Okay, I'll show you this one. I took off whatever was necessary. You can see how easily you can see the pattern through there with the backings off, and you know that you've taken enough off because it's pretty transparent. Now this has to go on here, and do you see what I mean? I don't have to do anything here because it's already white. Gesso keeps the areas white that are under part of this napkin, and you don't want them to you don't want it to show through. So what you do is you take your white gesso and you take a little scruffy brush. I have a little scruffy brush. It's as old as the hills. It's all cracking. It's just something I use for this kind of thing. And you look to see where you're going to place your focal point. And you can see that it is overlapping on the dark gray in some places. So what I'm going to do at that is I'm going to lift it. Now what you do have to be careful of is that you don't drop it back down into the wet gesso. Okay, that, and I'm just going to put wet gesso onto the napkin that's going to be underneath. I'm not being fancy. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm not being fancy. I am just getting rid of some of the dark gray. You don't necessarily have to get rid of it all. You just need to get rid of some so you don't see all that dark gray showing through. This comes out even a little bit further, so I'll just take it there. And you know what? If you are worried that you've come out too far, just kind of blend that gesso into your background, especially with this project, because the whole thing is snowy and wintry. And if your dark gray gets a little snowy-ish, that's fine. And that way, see, that didn't even cause a problem. And you have to do this everywhere where it's going to overlap a dark, well, any other color actually. I did a Christmas tree ornament for my sister's grandchildren. And I didn't do this because I didn't know you had to do this. As a result, the snowman, who should be nice and white, has a blue tint to him because I used blue paint underneath him. And he would have looked much nicer had he been totally white. So that was a lesson learned. I didn't know you had to do this. Now I do. Doesn't take long because you're not being terribly careful. You just want to cover it up. I mean, if you have a bigger, scrunchier brush, you certainly can use that. It will probably work faster. This is the one I use for that kind of thing, so I am just trying to make sure that I'm in the frame here. So wipe some of it off if you want to bring it out a little bit further and make it fade, because the gesso is really great for getting rid of borders that you don't want. For example, do you see this border here? That doesn't look very nice, where you can see where this gray one is coming up against the white one, or up here. That's not very nice, or down here. So what I'm going to do is just leave this. I finished this. I don't need to put any more gesso underneath this one because the colors that are underneath up here are very light. So it should be fine. Maybe I'll put some over this snowflake. Just a little bit. Might be nice if that snowflake showed through, but it might not be. So I'll just do this, just to make sure it's a little bit lighter and it doesn't show through as much. Okay, now I'm going to hold that back until the gesso dries, and then I'm going to take my scruffy brush. Now I have done this with my finger, but I'm not crazy about getting gesso all over my fingers. So you kind of just do the same thing. You can take it over across the top to give it a snowy look. You bring it down and you just scrumble it in. And you keep doing that. I'm going to stop doing that for now. You keep doing that until it's not such an obvious join. Now this might take a few coats because that join is pretty definite. And I don't really want it to be like that, so you might want to go a little bit heavier where the join is. It looks kind of cool. You get this textured look. And I like it. If you don't like it, just smooth it out until you've got it covered as much as you can. Now I'm wondering if it works better with your finger because it goes on a little bit more thickly, but guess what? This is going on with a brush because I don't feel like getting my finger all full of gesso today. Okay, now I'm not going to keep going down there because you can see what I'm doing, and there's no point you watching me do the whole thing. And when you go into the white, you can just bring it right over and soften up those edges. Okay, so that's what I do with the edges. And you can see on this one, you can barely see the edges. And they were the same as this, very dark. So you can barely see them. I went all the way down the edges. I went up the edge on this side. I went down the edge on this side. So you can barely see them, and that's what you want. You don't want to be seeing those dark edges there. So that's what you do with the gesso. And now I'm going to stop doing that because there's still a lot to be done on here, like you have to do up here for sure. You don't want this looking like it's just glued one on top of the other. The whole idea is to have it all look like it's part of the canvas, and nothing is just glued one on top of the other. So I'm just going to just show you this one, and again, that's not quite finished. I don't think there's quite enough. I want to bring the gesso down further so that it's nice and soft. This is going to take a little more work. You have to keep working at this until you get it to what you really like. So I will stop there, I've shown you how to do it. I've shown you what I'm going to do until it's finished. You know what? I am going to, let me think. No, I don't need to do it there. I am going to do it right here, because right here I am going to put in a silver snowflake. And I need this done so that I can do that. Now you see, you can't really notice the edge there because of this dark snowflake, so I don't need to worry about doing that. But I am going to do this one because I want to put a silver snowflake here. And I don't have to do it too much because the silver snowflake will cover some of it. Okay, there we go. Like I said, just you have to play until you get it the way you like it. I mean, you don't even have to put the papers on this the way I did. You can change it up. You can use your own imagination. You can use more of the big snowflake paper. You can use less of this dark gray. It's entirely up to you. And can you see the way this is now blending nicely into that gray? It almost looks like there's a haze on it, which is kind of neat. There we go. And that's all I'm going to do there, because that snowflake that I'm going to put over here will take up some of this space. And I'm just trying to think, is there another spot? I'm going to put a snowflake somewhere else. But if I need to put the gesso on at that point, I will. The gesso dries very quickly. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, cover the gesso back up, because this is definitely gets hard. And this is the gesso that we're using, and it is also on our site. One-stop shopping, ladies and gents. You don't have to go anywhere else. You don't have to go onto a whole bunch of different sites to find what you need. It's all right here. Okay, rinsing out my gesso brush. It's going to have to be cleaned properly because it's not all coming out. And this is my trusty little baby food jar. We haven't needed these for a very long time, but I've kept some of them just so I could do this. Use them for water. And my grandchildren use these when they're painting. There we go. That's still in there. I'm going to have to use brush cleaner, but I don't have any of that handy here right now, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Alright, I'm going back to my mixed media glue, and I'm going to put on my focal point, which is this lovely reindeer. And I like it right where it is. And it's stuck a little bit to the gesso, which is fine. Okay, put the glue up here. This is a lot of fun. I really like doing this, and I've probably said that a million times. You may get tired of hearing some of the things I say. I can never be sure if you've watched previous videos, so I have to repeat myself sometimes if things are important for you to know. And one of the things that I often repeat myself with is just the way I'm putting on the glue under and over. I repeat myself when I show you how to separate the layers. I repeat myself when I show you that I rip the napkin, not cut it. What happens when you cut the napkin is that it doesn't blend as well into the surface of your project. You really see a line when you rip. When you cut. So don't cut, rip. If you need to cut a tiny little space because you want to go between two things that are very close together, well, that's fine. But as a general rule, you rip the napkin instead of cutting it. The line is just too harsh when you cut. And this is almost finished now too, going right over that gessoed area so that You don't totally see the gray through the white on this napkin. You know, when I first got this napkin, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it because I wasn't 100% in love with it. I have favorites like we all do, but when I thought about doing this project, oh, that napkin would be perfect. It's nice and big. I don't need anything else as a focal point on this piece of canvas, and it's just working beautifully. There we go. We're done. I just have to make sure that it's well glued down on the edges. Those edges are not, I'm not wanting them to stand up. And that one turned out very well. I don't think a couple of little creases, but not a whole lot. As I said, I could have used the water technique, which again you can see on one of the previous videos. I did it as a technique video. But there were too many napkins for this particular project to do that. I really like to do that when I'm only putting one napkin on something, like on a box. Okay, there we go. That's on there. And now it's got to dry. And I'm wondering what else I can do in the meantime. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this upside down. That's wet down there, so I'll let it dry a bit. And I'm going to take one of my pre-torn snowflakes, which I got out of the napkin that had the darker snowflakes on it, and I'm going to put it, now I'm wondering if this one's too big. I think this one's too big for there, so I think I will take, I did a few of them. I did a bigger one, and I did a couple of smaller ones, and I did a couple of medium-sized ones, just in case I needed them. And I'm going to put this one right here. Now you don't really have to do anything under this because it's got mostly white under it. So I'm not going to bother with the gesso under this. I'm just going to put it right down in the middle like that and glue it down. This is to even up, and you'll see in a minute what I mean. When you do the bottom, you ends up looking like you've got it's bottom heavy, not top heavy the way things can be. It's bottom heavy. There was too much in the bottom and not enough here up at the top. So that's why I decided to add that one. And as you can see, that one is a nice dark one, so it really shows, because the others are those very pale snowflakes from the other napkin. Now I'm going to turn it back, and where else would I like a snowflake? I think I would like a snowflake down in this corner. Now you don't have to use the whole snowflake. You can put the snowflake on so that you just have part of it on there. And I think that's what well, you know what? I'm not really loving that big huge one there. But I'll try, let's try a small one. Because I can pretty much put the whole small one there. I like the small one better. So I'm just going to put the small one down here. Now keep in mind that I am going to have to go back and put the gesso in there because it's not blended in. But I've left space so that I can do that. Oh, this is fun. I can't wait to see this in the frame. It's going to look so cool. Alright, there's that one. Now I might have to, this was another one that I used, and I did this one down in this corner. I didn't use the whole thing, and I didn't put any gesso underneath this. So you're going to see what happens, the difference between these two. I'm going to use half of it. I don't want it to overlap the holly. So you're going to see what happens here. You may not be able to tell while the glue is still wet, but you'll be able to see it quickly enough once the glue dries. There we go. That one's on nicely. We'll let that dry for a minute, and then I'm going to show you the difference between what this looks like and what this one looks like. Now I noticed that on the one that I did here, I also put one, so I think I'm going to end up using the smaller one here. That big one is way too big. And this is what you do too. You take out a couple of them, you try them, if you like them, you leave them. If you like them, you use them. If you don't like them, you put them into your stash and you use them for something else. Okay, so this needs to go now. That's interesting. I don't know how I did this. Maybe I had this over further because this is looking a little crowded and I don't particularly want to go totally over. You know what? I'm not going to put this one on. I don't think I'll even notice that it's not there. I think what I'm going to do is just put this silver one that's here. See that one? I think I may use on the stencil that I will show you in a little bit, a larger one, and put it right here and not put in the other one that I had there. Yeah, I'm just wondering if I need one somewhere else. Kind of thinking that maybe it needs one here. I don't have that one on here, but that kind of looks nice. I like that there. But that takes gesso, so I won't put that one there right now. You kind of got the idea of what I'm doing here. I am trying things. Here's the bigger one. Maybe that one would look nice there. It might. Just depends, because I'm going to stencil a reindeer on here. That big one might be too big. It might block the reindeer. So I'm probably going to go with the medium size one and put it right there. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. Now, I've got my snowflakes on, I've got my focal point on, I've got, I don't have my glitter snowflakes on there yet, but I'm going to do that after I do some shading. And once again, this has to dry before I can do any shading. So I'm going to show you, because this snowflake is hanging off, I'm going to show you. And I have to tell you, give you a hint, it's easier to get it off if it's still wet. It's more difficult once it dries because, of course, it'll dry right to the edge of your work. And then it's hard to get it off because it's stuck on there. And get that off there. Okay, this is coming just nicely. I wonder if you know what I'm going to do with the outside edge of this. Anybody guess? Well, I won't tell you right now. We'll wait until I get to that point. And then I'll just show you what I'm going to do with it. Again, I don't want you sitting here watching things that take forever and that you probably already know. So that's it. That's scraped off so that... See, this got a little dry, so it is a little stuck there, but that's okay because I can paint over that or do whatever I'm going to do over that. Alright, now I'm going to get rid of this with my garbage can, close up my mixed media glue. For now, it has to dry again, so I'm going to pause for a few minutes and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back again, and it's dry enough. We're dry enough here to be able to go on to the very next step. But before I do, I'm just going to mention that the brush that I used to put down the glue and put down all of my pieces of napkin is a flat. And we have some flat brushes on the site which will work perfectly well. They're not this particular brush which Santa put in my Christmas stocking, but they work just as well and they do the job. So anyway, that's that. I am going to now use some Stamperia Allegro acrylic paint. This is called Anthracite. Again, it's available on our site just in case you don't have a dark gray paint and you need some. One-stop shopping. And I'm going to put it out on a piece of palette paper because that, like I said before, is what I use. I don't put my paint directly onto my table surface. This is my table cover, but I don't do that. I put it onto a piece of palette paper. The palette paper I have because I am a painter. Okay, now for this particular part of the work, I'm going to use a round brush. These are also on the site just in case. And I'm going to wet it first, and then I'm going to use some of the dark gray to do some shading. And where you want to shade, I suggest you dampen it just a titch. Keep your napkin handy because you want to wipe your brush frequently. Place the color wherever you want it, and this is personal preference. You don't even have to do this if you don't want to, but when you do it, you're going to find that it really makes things pop out. It changes the whole look, and I really like it, so I do it all the time. And as a painter, we shade and highlight everything we paint, so it's kind of comes second nature to me. But it's not a difficult situation. It's not difficult to do. It's just water and a little bit of paint. This is the acrylic paint. I have just used the watercolor paint, but I wanted something a little bit darker, and this time the watercolor wasn't quite cutting it for me, so I took the acrylic paint to use for this part. And I'm just going to wet it a little bit. Don't put too much on your brush, just get it a little bit wet on the tip. Follow your shape and bring it out just a little bit. And if you're finding that when you bring it out it's too dark, oh, I almost put my brush into my coffee. You can laugh at that and think, oh yeah, that's a pretty silly thing to do, but believe me, I have done it. I always work with a cup of coffee because I love coffee. And if I start to cough ever from this froggy thing I get in my throat every now and again, the coffee helps to get rid of it. Okay, this piece right here, I really like it, but it's not dark enough in certain areas. So I'm going to go back with just a little bit of paint on my brush. Now, this looks black, I know, but it's not. It's called Anthracite, and it's a very dark gray. And I'm going down here a little bit darker, and then just soften up those edges. There we go. I'm happy with that one now. And I think I'll just go over here onto the bottom because you can see that there's some white up there. I deliberately put that up there. I wanted it to look a bit snowy. So I put some white up there. I don't want to particularly cover that up, so I'll put the black down at the bottom. And blend it a little bit with a brush that I took the paint out of with the water. There we go. You just want soft edges. You don't want lines. That's the most important thing to avoid. Soft edges. Have a feather touch with this brush. You don't have to press hard. And I'm wetting that because I'm not sure where I want to place this color. Maybe on this side. Now, of course, when you're painting, there are definite rules for where the shadow goes, but when you're doing something like this, you can put them wherever you feel like putting them, which is the fun of it. No rules, you do whatever pleases you and whatever you like, which is why I'm finding I'm enjoying this so much. This is pretty new for me, all of this type of thing. I haven't done any of it, and I'm really enjoying myself with it. I did add this snowflake here while everything was drying, and it's still a little wet, so I'm going to have to stay kind of away from that. But I can still do a little bit of shading up here at the top of this one. And this, like I said, this is super easy. You're just laying color and spreading it. And you don't be afraid to do this. When you look at this and you think, oh, I can't do that. Oh, you certainly can do it. It's super easy. You lay the color down and you just use a brush and thin it out and just make sure that you don't have any edges. And that you do by laying your brush flat and kind of scrunching out those edges so that it blends into your background. See, this is a perfect spot for some shading right down here. It's just crying out for it because it's got white on this side. Looks like I'm doing a little more shading on this one than I did on the first one I did. I guess somebody's going to get one of these as a gift. I haven't decided who, but lots of people to give it to. Okay, and did you hear my granddaughter screaming upstairs? I don't know what she's doing, whether she's playing or whether she's upset. She's making a lot of noise. She gets frustrated easily, so maybe that's why she's making noise. Not crazy about this one, so I'm going to go back and go over it again. I don't know why I don't like it. I think maybe it needs some over here as well. And do I like that? Yeah, I like that better. But I need to blend it a bit. See, you can tell as soon as it's blended. You can also see the difference. See how this is all popping over here and it's not popping on this side? That's because of the shading. A tiny little bit of shading and makes everything pop. I have definitely done more. I don't think I'm going to do any more on this side shading. I think I might do a little more gesso up in this corner and make it whiter. I will be going around the outside edges. You'll see that shortly. Oh, I know what I wanted to show you. There is the snowflake that's done basically with a white background because the paper was white. There was a star. It looks like I can kind of see a little star through here, but that's okay. There's the one that was done directly onto a gray background with no gesso underneath. And you can see how you really can see everything that's underneath it coming through it, whereas you can't see that on the one that has gesso or a white background under it. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. If you prefer it this way, then you do it that way. Maybe you would prefer a combination. This one that I did has a little bit of white under it, so you can still see a little bit of the background coming through, but not as much as on this one, which has no white under it. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit of shading just over here. I just want you to see how this looks when you've done it, because it just changes the whole look. But you don't need to watch me doing this forever either, so I won't do too much. I'll just probably do this one more, just to give you an idea. This one can go right down this side. And get your damp brush and flatten it and just bring the color out a bit. so that it's softly blending into the background color of your napkin. There. I'm not going to do any more of that. You know what I will do? When I'm done with all of the other little tidbits that you have to do on here, I'm going to pause and then I'm going to finish the project. And then I'll bring it back to you to see. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because there are a lot of little details that have to be done. I will tell you what I did, but you don't need to sit and watch me do that. That takes too long, and you want to move on to another video, because there's going to be another Christmas video and another Christmas video, and we've got a big surprise coming for the end of August, which we hope you will be watching so that you know what it is. Okay, now just very quickly around the focal point, I also did some shading. Now this particularly is very pernickety because of all the little points from the holly. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of the video doing that. I will eventually do the whole thing, and then I will show it to you all done. But right now I'm just going to show you this tiny little bit so that I don't forget that you haven't seen this. I think when you're doing a project like this, it's easy to forget that people have never done it and they don't know what you're doing. You get carried away, you get lost in your own little world, and easy to forget that other people are watching because they want to learn, or they want to just reproduce, which please feel free to do. I have no problem with that. You can do whatever you like. You can paint this yourself, you can do the collage yourself, you can change it, you can do it exactly the same. It's totally and completely up to you. I'm just going to be very happy if people are watching. There, that's what that little section looks like, shaded. And then when I have done the whole entire shading all around, which as I said takes a little while to do, I'll show it to you again. Alright, next thing I'm going to do, I am going to take a snowflake stencil, and again, you are so lucky we have this on our site, and you don't have to look anywhere else for a snowflake stencil if you don't have one. And if you've never done anything like this and you want to try something, this is the kind of thing to get, because you can stencil snowflakes onto anything, any project, onto a painting, onto a pencil crayon piece of work. You can just stencil the snowflakes onto white bags and use them as gift bags when you're giving out little Christmas gifts. It's not a waste of money. You're going to reuse this many times if you do any crafting at all. Alright, now I said that I wanted to put a silver snowflake over here, and I am going to do that, but I'm going to put a small one because I need to shade around here and I haven't done that yet. So I'm going to put a rather small one here so I still leave myself room to shade. Now we have glitter cream, and this glitter cream is silver. It comes in a much larger jar than this, but I prefer to just work in a small container. It's easier to handle, it's easier to put it back in and take it out. Okay, so using this, I'm just going to spread this paste over this snowflake quite generously at first. There we go, and then you can scrape it off a little bit if you've got a lot on there, and hopefully it doesn't go on into any of the other snowflakes, and then very gently lift it, and there we go. That looks beautiful. Now I'm going to do another one. Is this dry? I think that's dry enough. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to do it right here. And I'm just going to put that down there. And again, everybody, put them wherever you like. If yours doesn't turn out exactly like this, you may want to put your snowflakes in different spots. So go right ahead and do that. Nobody said they have to be exactly where I've put mine. Oops, looks like there's a hair in there. And lift, and you've got another snowflake there. Now what I've noticed is that I've got a little bit of silver right there. There, it's gone. Okay, not easy to see these snowflakes. You know what? I'm going to put one more right here. Right here. Right where? I don't want to cover up that shading, so I probably will go right here. And there we go. Right here. And back in my little container. And very gently lift. There we go. Now, what you're seeing right now is not exactly what you'll see when it's all done, when this is dry, because it dries more translucently and all you see is the glitter rather than the whatever it's in, the paste. It dries, that paste dries clear, of course, so that you don't have any white showing through. But when it's dry, all you see is the glitter, and that's what you want to see. Right now you can barely see that, but you will be able to see that much better once it's dry. Now I've left a spot right up at the top for the reindeer. But before I get to the reindeer, I'm going to take, we don't have any babies left in the house, not that need these. Although, my daughter does keep a package of wipes. I don't know if they're exactly this kind of wipe that she uses to wipe their hands and sometimes their faces, because we still do have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. So there you go. I'm going to wipe that glitter off of my palette knife. And I'm also going to wipe it off of my stencil, because hard lumps form like with everything else, and you can't reuse your stencil, and you want to be able to reuse this and reuse this and reuse this. There we go. Well, do I see any glitter anywhere? Do you see any glitter? I don't really, so I did a good job. Okay, I'm going to put that over here. It's over there because I may need to use it again. It doesn't need to go into the garbage right away. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some shading around the outside edges. I can do that before I put the reindeer on. And I want, oh, look at that. Can you see that? Just from wiping off the stencil, I'm all glittered up. Okay, now the the dark gray. I'm going to go around here and into the corner, and I've got a fair amount of water in my brush. And then I'm going to soften that, because I don't want it to be that dark down there, but I do want it to be a little bit darker. So you have to soften it. I didn't actually realize it was going to be that dark on there. Now there's another thing you can do with your wipes. Oh, I guess you can't hear me with a paintbrush in my mouth. You can wipe off some excess paint. But I seem to see a big blob of something there, and I don't like that. So what I probably will do is just put some gesso in that spot. Can you see that spot right there? Yeah, that's me being a fusspot. But I don't like it. So I'll put some gesso in there so that you can't see that. And this, I'm not happy with either. And softening it. Well, that's okay. That's better. What I might do is take a little more paint, just do this corner. Just do that one corner. Maybe I had too much water in my brush. Here's my napkin, and I just do that. I just plop it onto the napkin now and again, just to make sure it doesn't have too much water in it. Well, that's good. Let me hold that up and see if I like that. That's fine. Okay, now I'm going to do this side a bit. You can go again wherever you want here. You don't have to go where I went. I'm not even going in the same places as I went on the first one I did. It's very hard when something's hand done to have it be exactly duplicated, but this is pretty close. Okay, and you don't certainly want it that dark, so water it down a bit. There we go. Just keep watering it down until you get it the color. Now you can drag it down a bit. There, kind of like that. It is going to get lightened because I will be using some silver glitter on here. That glitter that I don't know if you could see when I was holding it up. This is a fun project, ladies and gents. You'll like it. It will look beautiful, especially if somebody's decorating for Christmas with a lot of silver, which we do. I have a white Christmas tree, one with lots of snow on it, and this will look lovely in the room just beside my tree. There. Am I going to go down here anymore? I don't think so. Maybe just a little tiny bit into this white area. It's a little bit white. And sometimes you just have to sit back and take a look at what you've done and decide if that's the way you want it to look. You can criticize yourself. Don't be too critical. You won't want to do this ever again. But you can say, well, you know what? I don't really like that. And the way this is going, I don't really like this. I should have brought over a Q-tip. Q-tips save the day on many, many occasions, especially if they're damp. You can just wipe away mistakes. And please don't ever think that these have to be perfect, because it's not going to happen. And if you expect it to be absolutely perfect, you're going to be very disappointed in your work. So let's go over to the bottom a little bit. Again, I'm not going to do this whole thing because it will take a longer time than I want to spend doing this and you watching me do it. So I will finish up and then I will show you everything finished up. And if you have any questions after that, you can contact us at designaholic.com. Studio design. I keep forgetting to put studio on the end. Designaholicstudio.com. Any questions, and we will gladly answer any questions that you may have. Especially if you've never done anything like this before. Sometimes it's very daunting. I have a girlfriend that said that. She said, I really like what you're doing, but I just don't feel comfortable with it. So I have offered with her, because we often painted together, to have her come over one time, once it's a little more guaranteed that, you know, we won't get sick. And I'm going to do one of these with her and see how she likes it when she's actually doing it, not just watching somebody else do it. Okay, do I want any? I don't think I am. When I look at this one, I don't think I did. Oh, yes, I did. I did a little bit of the darkening up here, but not much. It was very light. So maybe I will do that. I will do that. Now you can see the difference between what this looked like when I started it and what it's looking like now with everything popping out. And when the wreath is all shaded around it, it'll come out like this. And that's where your eye is going to go, right to that focal point. And that's what you're aiming for. That's where you want your eye to go. Okay, let's do a little bit over here, but you're going to have to be careful here because this is very white and you don't want it to be too dark. And that would be too dark, definitely. So very quickly get some water into your brush and smooth it out. See, it's easier to do this with watercolors. So if your watercolor, if you want to use your dark gray watercolor, you go right ahead. It doesn't dry as quickly, it's more fluid. You can constantly get it moving again. See what just happened? Now that's going to be stuck there and I don't like that. So maybe you would prefer to use the watercolor to do this. It's a little less threatening because the watercolor will continue to move. Acrylic paint, once it dries, it's pretty much stuck there. Yeah. So you have to be a little more confident when you're using acrylics because you don't want it to dry and not be able to get rid of it if you don't like it. So maybe, yes, maybe use your watercolors to do it and be able to remove it or move the paint more easily than with the acrylic. You know, I didn't think I liked that, but now I've darkened it a little bit and it's kind of cool. Okay, I'm not going to go across the top, I don't think. I probably will come down this side a bit. I will come down that side a bit. And I'm definitely going to shade in more of this, and I'm going to go around this. And if you notice, I did not shade around any of the snowflakes. I just left them on their own. Now the very last thing that I would be doing on this is to do the reindeer flying through the sky, the silver reindeer, and here he is. This is the stencil that, again, we have available for you. I'm not 100% sure that this snowflake is dry, and I don't want to sit this down into this wet snowflake. So I am going to pause again, and while I pause, I will finish up some of the shading, and just until this snowflake is dry enough to put this down. And I will do some of the shading and get right back to you. Hi everybody, I'm back again. I'm going to use the silver glitter paste on the reindeer in the corner, and then I'm going to show you what else I did to finish up. And this is just the same as we did the snowflakes. Just use your glitter paste generously over the reindeer, and maybe that little star over there. And don't forget his legs, which are over here. And can you see me? I hope so. And there we go. There's the rest of his legs. Now, it seems to me that that might be a little bit too thin. So I'm going to put it on a little bit more thickly. If I get some of the reindeer's legs from the other reindeer, I'll just take that off. There we go. And do a little scrape across. Oh, you see? That looked too thin. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Just scrape a little bit off. Oh dear. Oh no, that's the other snowflake that's underneath there. And now it's all over my fingers. And I'm going to very carefully lift it off. And there we go. We have a flying reindeer. He's flying right over the top of a silver snowflake. Now, I'm going to scrape what's on here. I'm going to put it back in the jar because this stuff is priceless, you know. Okay, just scrape it back into the jar. See if I can get any more off. You don't want to waste it. You don't need to leave it on the stencil. You can just scrape it off and put it back in the jar. And then I am going to clean that up with my baby wipe. Now, I don't know whether I mentioned that I have got, these are Pampers baby wipes, but I have used baby wipes in the past that are not as expensive as Pampers to do this. This is, Pampers are meant for nice little baby bottoms, but just happened to be what I had in the house, so I'm using them. I probably need a clean one because this one is got a lot of glitter on it already, and it's leaving the glitter still on the stencil. So I'm going to get a clean one. A fresh Pampers. Tell you, these things when you're doing any kind of work like this are something you should have because they come in so handy. They wipe your hands, they wipe your stencil, they can even take paint off of a canvas if you get it in the wrong spot. They are great for cleaning up any little mess you've made, and if you're me, you've made messes all over the place. So I go through quite a few of them, which is why I don't always get the Pampers because they're a lot more expensive than some of the others, but they are really great. And of course, I've said it before and I'll say it again, you get what you pay for, right? And this one works beautifully. Oh, there's some glitter. I didn't even see that. Okay, that looks not too bad. I still see a little bit of glitter, but it's certainly not like it was. My fingers are nicely glittered up again. Okay, that one is done pretty well. So I'll just put it aside. The reindeer is on the canvas. Let me see. I think I have a small little bit of, oh no, that's a little star. Nope, it's up here. This shouldn't be here. This little bit right here shouldn't be here. So I lifted it off with the palette knife, and I'm going to just wipe it, if I can see where it was even. It was right here. Wipe it with the, there you go, see? Wiping it with the Pampers wipes. There. That should do it. Now that's up there. I don't know if you can see it. There's stars, little stars all around him. I'm going to lift it up, straight up, so you hopefully can see him on there. I mean, he doesn't stand out 100% because he's silver and there's a lot of gray and white in the background. So of course, what you will do with him is shade him with the same color as you used to shade around the wreath and to shade into some of these spaces. Now I'm going to show you what I did while everything was drying. I did some more shading in the background pieces here and in the background pieces there. I added a little bit more gesso to whiten up the top edge a bit. I also put some down here at the bottom and on the side. You see, you want it blended in nicely so that it just softens the look. You don't want it just sticking out in your face. You want it to soften the look, that's all. Now I will go around the reindeer with some shading, but not yet because he's still quite wet. But there is something else I can do to show you what else I did on here. I used Craft Twinkles, and this is silver, and it's a glitter paint, and it gives you a fair amount of glitter in there, a heavy glitter paint, which is cool. And then I just took that and I kind of, and this was a very like here, there, and everywhere kind of a touch. I didn't plan it. I just put it here, there, and everywhere, up into the corner, and you've got it on the side of your brush and you're just brushing it onto the canvas. I didn't go into the middle of the canvas with the silver. I kept it out around the outer edges. And when I hold this up for you to see, you're probably not going to be able to see this either, but it does soften things again, and it makes it look absolutely icy and snowy and shimmery. And when you look at it, you get little bits of sparkle. And again, I'm kind of a sparkle fanatic. I love glitter. I love glitter, particularly at Christmas time. So this is just a perfect medium for me. And it does add, in the end, a really nice effect. And again, it's not standing out in your face either. It's just there. You can just see it. You turn your work a little bit and you see it. And that's what you want. You don't want something that's, you know, sticking right out in your nose. You can go over where you shaded a little bit of the black. You can even go up close to your wreath. And I did mention, right, that I finished shading all around the wreath, so that you can see that. I finished shading all around the wreath, and now you can see that the wreath really pops out of the canvas. And it wasn't popping before, it was just kind of sitting there. Alright, and this is just a fun little part of doing this job too, because you're just laying it down wherever you feel like. Keeping it out into the outer borders if you like, but you don't have to. You can put it into the middle of the canvas if you want. You can put some over here. I'm not going to do that, but you can. And what I like about this is it's so soft, and it doesn't have to be, like, you don't have to put glue on the paper or varnish or anything and put the glitter on with it. I don't mind doing that if I'm doing something smaller. I have done some Christmas ornaments, which will be coming up, and they do have glitter that I put on with some glue. It's the actual glitter, not glitter paint. But you will see those in a few weeks. Yeah, I might just put a little bit in here. I didn't do this on the other one, but kind of like it in there. A little bit of silver sparkle. You know, the moon is shining on the snow and it's just sparkling. Now, you can't really tell unless you tilt your work a certain way where you need more, where you need to rub it in a little bit less. You can't really tell. So you have to tilt your work this way and that so that you can see where the glitter is. Now, if you can see any glitter on there, I will be astounded. Because like I said, when my sister sends me cards, I don't see any glitter. And she said it's heavily loaded with glitter, so the cameras just don't pick it up. Alright, a little bit more here. I love this. I love this piece. And that's about it, I think, for the silver. Now I'm going to take, oh, maybe a little bit down here. I am going to take Oh, this is so cool. I was going to say I was going to take what's left and put it back in the jar, but there's not very much left on there, so I won't bother. And just bring it right down here. And can I see it? Can you see it? I don't think so. It would be helpful if you can let me know just by making a comment. Hey, Veronica, I can see the glitter. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. And one more last little thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Craft Twinkles. This is brush on glitter paint again, only this is crystal rather than silver. And I am going to put a little bit of this down here where the snow is underneath this particular deer. And I'm just going to paint this on. Nowhere else, just where the snow is, so it has a little bit of a sheen. There's so many things you could do here. You could use the texture paint that we use for making dots and letters and so on in white, and you could texture paint onto the white snowflakes that are in the sky here, because they're big enough to just drop a bit of that texture paint in, and it's white, and it comes with a long nozzle, so you could just go from here to here to here, and it gives you a little bit of a raised snowflakes there. You could do a little bit of splattering on here. I'm just trying to give you lots and lots of different ideas, things you can do with it. You can use DecoArt Snow Text, and you could make this snowy area raised. But because I want this in a frame, and I'm not 100% convinced I want it in the drop-in frame, I don't want to raise it too much because then it won't fit in the frame. So you always have to think about that when you are doing a project. I know a lot of people do these kinds of decoupage, collage products into their art journals, and then you can do anything. You can put snow on there, you can put gemstones on here, you can do whatever you like, because it doesn't matter if they don't sit quite flat. Now let me see that. Yeah, I can see it. Can you see it? Can you see the glitter as I move it around? I hope you can. It's very subtle. It's not meant to be so glittery that that's all you see. You just want something subtle. Now, again, it will take me a while to do the shading around the deer, and he's still wet. That'll be a few minutes to dry. I wanted to show you what I'm doing with the edge. I'm just going to paint it in the gray all the way around the end. I don't even know when I drop this into a drop-in frame if that's going to show, but better it be. The drop-in frame that I have is black, so better it be gray than white. And I will just give you a quick little thing around the deer. I really don't want to do too much of this because he is wet. And my eye's kind of doing a funny little twitching here, and it's hard to see what I'm doing when it's doing that. I don't want to get the dark color onto the deer either. Now, when you see the pictures of this particular canvas, everything's going to be finished. The deer will be completely shaded. Again, you don't want to sit watching me do this. This takes a long time if you're careful, and you don't want to be watching me. You've got the idea. You don't need to sit and watch it being done again. There. And Yeah, it takes a bit. You have to do it carefully because you don't want too much black. You don't want dark gray, sorry. You don't want not enough. So I'm just going to do that little bit just to show you what I was doing around there. And again, the purpose of that is to make the deer pop. So I think that we are done. I'm going to, oh, can you see it all? What if I turn it this way? Then you can see it all at the same time. I am sure when you go to watch this video, you will see this finished one in a frame at the beginning of the video or at the end, because it just adds that much more to it when it's in a frame. And I am going to put this upstairs with my, I have a white tree up there as well. And it's my personal little tree, so this is kind of my personal little project. I think I'm putting it upstairs. That's it, ladies and gents. We're done. I'm going to go around this little star. I'm going to go around that star and around the reindeer, just as I did on this one. And you can see how the reindeer pops out. He disappears when there's nothing around him. He's just kind of a non-entity. But as soon as you put some of the shading around him, he pops right out. And he's enjoying his little romp through the sky. The same as this one down here is, he's not flying as high, but he's still having fun. Which is the important thing around Christmas time, to have fun. Anyway, this is our very first Christmas in August project. I will probably do something a little less involved next time. I think I'm going to do some bookmarks, because Christmas bookmarks. I have two daughters that are avid readers. I may have mentioned that. And I'm going to do a bookmark, and I'm going to give them both a gift card for Tim's or McDonald's coffee, whichever they prefer. I think I'll do the same for one of my girlfriends. Yeah. And that bookmark is a very short little easy project. I also would love to do some for my granddaughters and put it in their stockings. They're just becoming avid readers, and it would make it even more fun for them to read if they had a nice bookmark. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed what I did today, and all of the products, of course, are available at designaholicstudio.com. I've linked them in the description below. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. It will mean a whole lot to us. So I'm leaving you with my mantra. Try it, you'll love it, and have a really nice crafting day. See you next time.